So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our County Assessor, Mr. Jeffrey Prang.
Thank you very much, Giuseppe, and good morning. I figured you probably were all thinking no better way to get your morning started than hearing a speech from the county property tax assessor. Great way to liven up the day. But this is also interesting, this room. It reminds me of when I have our staff meetings. Everybody sits in the back, so I always tell them that the seats at the front are the pay increase seats, and the ones in the back are the pay cut seats. But maybe that's your strategy to get away from me or to hope I don't find your address to review your assessments. But it's great to be with you here today, and appreciate the opportunity to share with you a little bit of the things that are going on in our office, and hopefully it will be useful information to you. But before we begin, I wanted to explain to you a little bit more about what my office does, and more importantly, what we do not do. One of the things I've learned since I've been assessor is that about 99% of the people think that I collect taxes. Now a day goes by where somebody said, I just sent you a check. And the only check you should send to me should be made payable to the Jeff Prang for Re-election Fund. If you send me your tax bill, you're in trouble because I don't collect taxes, and you will get a 10% penalty if you're late. That's not waivable. There's another guy who has a very intuitive title. He's called the tax collector. And as you might deduce, he collects the taxes. So there's actually a number of county departments that are involved in the tax chain. Just to, not to bore you, but when you sell property, it's recorded with the registrar recorder. They send us the deed, and we assess the value. We send it to the auditor controller, who establishes your tax rates, and then they send that information to the treasurer tax collector, who sends your bills, collects your taxes, and distributes it. But hopefully now they've set that record straight. Let me tell you a little bit about my office, and apologize if any of this is repeat information for you, but we're trying to bring as fresh of information as possible. But the basic duty of my office is very simple. We locate and identify all taxable property in the county, and we establish the fair market value in accordance with California law. Eventually, cities, school districts, and county government collect property taxes based upon the values that we establish that fund vital public services such as public safety, education, libraries, parks, etc. And while we are not, my office is not a revenue collection department per se, revenue is a byproduct of what we do. The Office of the Assessor is the largest local public property assessment agency in the United States. We have 1,400 employees, 6 district offices, and we are responsible for establishing the value annually of 2.36 million taxable properties and 270,000 business assessments in the county, assessed at almost $1.4 trillion, which is the largest assessment roll anywhere in the state, if not the nation. According to the current county budget, property taxes, which are based on the values established by my office, make up about a quarter of the county's general fund, which translates into about $4.6 billion in tax revenues of the county's $26 billion budget. It's the single largest source of discretionary funding that the Board of Supervisors has to spend. As Giuseppe had indicated prior to my election as assessor, I served for nearly 2 decades as mayor and council member of the city of West Hollywood, which is a much smaller jurisdiction than LA County, but now as one of the 8 elected officials within LA County government, I have the unique opportunity to help focus on the county's top priorities, which include public safety, delivering quality public services, and importantly, educating residents on what county government actually does for them. As assessor, it is my constitutional obligation to enroll accurate property values, whatever they may be, up or down, in good times or bad. Assessors are constitutionally indifferent to the revenue generated by property taxes. And for example, during the recession of 2008, we lowered the assessed value on about 426,000 properties, or more than 16% of all properties in LA County that lost value as a result of the real estate crisis. At the peak of that recession, California assessors across the state lowered the value of more than 3 million properties. Now, when I was elected as your assessor in 2014, I began my administration by outlining an ambitious plan designed to improve public service and to build the most professionally staffed and technologically advanced property assessment agency in the nation. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the things that we have done in the 2 years that I've been in office. First, early last year, we created what we called the one-stop public service counter in the Hall of Administration. As I mentioned, because everybody thinks I'm the tax collector, we actually do most of the public service for the tax collector's office because everybody starts with us. And one of the things I really do not want to do in my job is I don't want to be one of those bureaucrats who who says it's not my job, go find the right person. We want to try to solve problems where the public is and where they come to us. So I'm working with the Treasurer Tax Collector's Office and the Auditor Controller's Office, and we opened up a one-stop shop in the Hall of Administration. So when somebody comes to our public counter with a tax bill, we could say that's not our job, but the guy whose job it is standing right next to me, and we'll solve it right then and there without having to pass you along, providing better public service. The most important project that we're working on, it will consume my entire first term, and you may have heard me speak on this previously, deals with our technology system. My department, like a lot of government agencies in city, county, and state government, are still saddled with technology, some of it dating back to the 1970s. Our current system is a mainframe, green screen, DOS-based system. We have to train COBOL programmers in order to manage it. And I think half the people in this room probably weren't even born when the last COBOL programmer was working. We are our systems are substantially paper-based, which makes it very difficult for our staff to respond to inquiries. It makes it creates big delays when you contact us with questions. So we are engaged in a 4 to 5 year, $100 million project to replace our technology. And this is really important for a number of reasons. One, it'll make us more efficient in the assessor's office. Secondly, it'll become a template for other government agencies in the county to replace their systems. And because assessors across California look to LA for leadership on technology and assessment practices, our system will probably become the new state standard in the next few years. And we're already seeing benefits by implementing a number of improvements, including a data information portal for the public, which is user-friendly and intuitive. Go back. So this is how, I don't know if you entered our website before, but this is how you get onto our website now. That where it says search property, you now can enter the assessor's identification number, you can enter a street address. It is much easier to get to your property before. And previously, this portal was represented by about a half a dozen or more individual green screen applications, which were very difficult, that looked like this. And there may be 8 of them that our employees would have to look at to get information about your property. It now looks like this. It's in plain English. It has maps. It has pictures. It has assessment data going back many, many years, so you can see everything that you need to know about the property in one single place. This is great for our employees because it means when you call us, we don't have to transfer you to a district office. We don't have to have somebody rummage through a cavern of paper files to find your property jacket. That's the other component of this project. Right up until December, all of our property records for 2.5 million parcels were kept in paper files, and this is one of our storage rooms. So if you were to call, leave their desk and go down here and crank those handles and find your file and dig around for documents about your property. Those documents have all been scanned, so everything is now on that website, and our employees can answer your calls with complete information at their fingertips for the first time. So once it's completed, we're adding more and more functionality every day. It will increase accuracy for our personnel, increase transparency for the member of the public, and make it more efficient for both you as well as us to get our jobs done. Another initiative is what we call open data. And this has become a kind of a buzzword in government, and the objective is to try to provide as much government data to the public as possible so you know what we're doing and how much money we're spending. So as you know, my office collects a vast amount of real estate and assessment data, which is of particular interest to your profession. And like you, I believe that information that we collect does not belong in a basement or stored in electronic files, but it should be out in the light for all to see and use. So I have published an unprecedented amount of property data on our county's open data website. We have published the last 11 years of data online in an easy-to-use format, which I believe is the largest open data release of property assessment data anywhere in the nation. So you can now view archives and indexed information free of charge. And you probably all know there's a lot of companies out there that buy and repackage our information, companies like Zillow or Case-Shiller. But it's my belief that public information should be easy to access, easy to interpret, and most importantly, it should be free. And we're hoping to continue to add more added value so that you can have that same information that you might otherwise have to pay from private vendors in the future. One of my most recent initiatives that I'm very proud of is deals with providing relief to small businesses. You probably, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but in addition to real property, the assessor's office is responsible for assessing what's called business personal property. That means furniture, equipment, and machinery. Many of you are small business people. You probably get these horrible forms from our office every year called the 571L. This is basically asking you to disclose what all the furniture and equipment in your office is. It's hard to complete. You are required to pay property taxes on any business equipment worth $2,000 or more. Here's the challenge. If you pay, for example, $3,000 worth of office equipment, at 1%, that's $30 in gross revenue that will be collected. It costs my office $51 to process that assessment. It costs the treasurer and tax collector another $51 to process that assessment. So it costs the government $70. We lose $70 on every tax assessment. That was inefficient. So I asked the Board of Supervisors last July to increase the threshold for reporting from $2,000 to $5,000, which had the net effect. Hopefully, this involves a lot of you, but we dropped 50,000 small businesses off the tax rolls altogether for this type of business assessment. So everybody thinks I'm the tax guy. I'm not really, but at least this is one thing I could pretend like I am, say I cut your taxes. So because I did, and we did other. That saved small businesses in LA County about $3.5 million in tax relief. There's another related item. You may not involve you quite as much, but it's something called possessory interest. If you lease property from the government using government property for private use, that's called a possessory interest, and you're required to pay property taxes. So if you are a vendor at LAX, you not only have to pay rent, but you have to pay property taxes. If you own a boat at Marina Del Rey, you pay rent and you pay property taxes. And we were dealing with the same issue with this possessory interest issue. It was costing us more money to process these assessments than it was generating in revenue. So last December, again at my request, the Board of Supervisors increased the possessory interest reporting threshold from $2,000 to $10,000, which will once again provide a lot of tax relief to a lot of people in the county. At the same time, it will create better efficiency and save revenue for county government. So there's a couple other things that we do. We manage a number of programs that are designed to help people save money on their taxes. And there's a lot of programs, propositions that have been passed over the years to help veterans, seniors, the disabled. But one of the most popular that I know you're all familiar with is the homeowner's exemption. The homeowner's exemption is available to qualify. All that's necessary is that it's your principal place of residence and that you own it. And you will qualify for a $7,000 reduction in your assessed value for property tax purposes, which saves about $70. May not be a lot for some people, but if you're on fixed income, a lot of people have owned their homes for a long time, it could be very helpful. The challenge is that about 500,000 people in LA County qualify for the homeowner exemption, but they don't apply for it. And it's an easy one-time application that you can do online. And one of the reasons I want to talk to you about this, because a lot of folks in your industry, I know that you send out newsletters by mail, you send out newsletters by email, you're probably looking for information that might be useful for potential clients. Well, if somebody's buying a home, they should know about the homeowner's exemption. So I'm hoping that you will include this type of information in your marketing documents and help us spread the word so we can make sure that everybody who qualifies for this tax tax benefit will take advantage of it. Now, as assessor of LA County, I represent almost 11 million people, and the 57 other assessors in California look to my office to lead on a number of important issues affecting the state. And I take this obligation seriously, and I've worked to bring legislation in Sacramento to improve assessment practices on behalf of all California assessors. There's a couple things I wanted to share with you about what we've been working on. The first one, a very frustrating issue, deals with mobile homes. Stay on the slide until I tell you. So I'm trying to close a loophole that permits some mobile home owners to avoid property taxes when they convert their structures, their mobile homes, into permanent structures. And this is becoming very common, particularly in coastal areas such as Malibu. This is a Malibu mobile home. A lot of these parks in Malibu, Paradise Cove, Point Dume, back in the 40s and 50s, it was low-cost housing for a lot of surfers, the beach bums, and but it's now sitting on pretty valuable real estate, and a lot of other people who are not surfers have discovered that. So what's happening is they're purchasing these mobile homes, and they're basically demolishing them and creating it into turning them into permanent structures with a foundation. In fact, one of them, just last fall, was purchased by the president of CBS for $5.3 million. And there are dozens, if not hundreds of these, which are selling between $1 and $5 million. And this guy from CBS, his property tax burden every year is $29. So let me show you essentially what they're doing. This is like a standard 12-foot by 50 or 60-foot mobile home. Go to the next frame. What they're doing is they're demolishing it down to this piece, which is not a mobile home. That is a mobile home part. Keep going. Then this is, as you can see here in the construction, they're putting in a poured foundation, and you can see make up the chassis are part of the replacing floorboards. It is no longer functioning as a mobile home. Go to the next one. And here's some of the construction elements to it, so you can see it is clearly not a mobile home. It is a home. And this is one of the finished products. It went from a 12-foot by 50. I think this is about 2,000 square feet. And this is a view for one of them. So these folks are paying about $20 to $80 a year in lieu of property taxes. And so my view was, if you convert your mobile home into a home, you should be measured by the same yardstick that everyone else is and pay your fair share. So we introduced legislation. I was unsuccessful in getting it adopted. 100% of the people who I discussed this with agree with me, except for one little tiny state agency which oversees mobile homes, and they have the Housing and Community Development. Their argument is that it still has mobile home parts. So tear the whole house down, and you can hook up a truck, pull it away, so it's a mobile home. I thought it was the most absurd argument I ever heard. I was arguing with him. I said, well, based on your analysis, if we were to take the doors off a mobile home and attach it to the U.S. Bank building downtown, we could re-register that as a mobile home. It's because using parts does not make it a mobile home. So we're continuing to fight that battle. Another issue of fairness, where we've had a little bit more success, deals with the assessment of commercial aircraft. A lot of people don't know that the assessors also assess major airlines, Delta, United. In the wake of 9/11, the airlines went to a number of state legislatures and asked for a tax cut because nobody was flying because of the fear of terrorism. And I thought that was reasonable to help an industry that was struggling, so they gave them a temporary tax cut. However, here we are 15 years later, and airlines are not struggling. They're making record profits. They're nickel and diming us for everything that they can, luggage, and I think they're now going to have an entry fee as well, just to pass the threshold of the plane. Anything they could do to make money off of us. So I believe it's past time that the airlines pay their fair share. They no longer have a need. They don't agree. They would like to keep their tax cut. So we've been fighting that for a couple of years and had a little bit of success. But they're relentless, and they hire lots of lobbyists who attend fundraisers in Sacramento, which I'm learning is the key way to get your legislation passed. But more to come on that as we move along. Another big issue that came to my attention since I've been elected deals with man-made disasters. California law allows us to lower property taxes on a temporary basis if you have been impacted by fire, flood, or earthquake. One of the provisions is called Proposition 8. That means your home has lost value. Another one is misfortune and calamity, which is from one of these disasters. But we've had some man-made disasters, environmental disasters, which don't fit neatly into these categories. The most significant one was the Aliso Canyon gas leak in Porter Ranch. A lot of people were concerned that their homes were losing value because of gas, which is just very intuitive. If you're breathing unhealthy gas, people probably don't want to pay as much money to live there. So I worked with the Board of Supervisors and the legislature to identify some strategies to help property owners that were impacted by these types of disasters. There's other disasters such as in the southeast in the Vernon, the Exide battery plant. There was an old housing development in Carson built on a landfill called the Carousel, and all these folks were being impacted. And we asked for the governor to provide additional discretion so that we could provide property tax relief to these homeowners. The governor, unfortunately, he vetoed that bill. He said that I had sufficient discretion to address these concerns. I was really annoyed about that because I wouldn't have asked for additional discretion if I thought I had sufficient discretion to help them. But that's an important issue that we have I'm addressing with other assessors that we hope to adopt in the next couple of years. So let me tell you a little bit about what's going on in terms of property values in the county. I'll give you a little bit of countywide information, then some local information. According to the 2016 assessment roll, which I released last fall for LA County, I'm pleased to report that property values continue to increase. Last year, countywide, the values increased 5.58%, or $70.62 billion over the previous year. Good news for sellers, maybe not such good news for buyers, but we have published information on the on valuations by city in our annual report, which you can find online in at my website. For 6 years running now, the local property market continues to be on the upswing. Big difference from where we were from 2007 to 2010 during the Great Recession and the real estate market crisis. Starting in 2011, assessment growth has increased gradually, starting at 1.36% in 2011 to a high of 6.13% in 2015. We dipped a little bit in 2016 in terms of the growth, but it was still a positive growth. And I don't have a firm forecast number yet, still a little bit premature, but we're anticipating that the 2017 number will be somewhat close to where we were in 2016. The largest single variable for the increase in the current assessment roll is frankly related to your job. It's the transfer of property. That is the buying or selling and changing of ownership. An increase in the total amount of transfer value strongly indicates a strong real estate market. Changes in ownership added more than $39 billion to the value of the assessment roll last year, or $390 million in local property taxes that is distributed to local government and education. New construction, which includes both commercial and residential, also has a big impact. New construction added more than $6.7 billion of value to the assessment roll last year, or $67 million in gross property tax receipts. Another indication of the growing real estate market are what we call decline in value restorations. California law allows a temporary reduction in assessed value when a property suffers a decline in value. But when the economy recovers, we're required constitutionally to restore those values back up to the Prop 13 trended base year value. Last year, we reviewed about 200,000 properties that are still under decline in value, but because of the continued market recovery, significantly more of these decline in value properties are returning to their or toward their pre-recession base year values. We expect that the number of undervalued properties to reduce down to about 150,000 this year. Decline in value reviews added more than $6.7 billion to the assessment roll, and that's great news for those property owners as they continue to regain their equity in their homes. Let me share with you now some statistics that are specific to the cities covered by your association, which include Alhambra, Rosemead, Monterey Park, San Gabriel, and Temple City. Last year, these cities included nearly 52,000 single-family homes, 9,000 900 condominiums, 9,200 apartment buildings, nearly 5,000 commercial industrial properties, for a total of 65,000 parcels. In the last year, we processed almost 2,900 transfers of property. That's the work that all of you have done. At the height of the housing market in 2006, the median sales price of a single-family home in the area was $560,000. But as of January 16th of last year, the median sales price shot up to $595,000. So clearly, we have surpassed the pre-recession highs in this region. Since 2011, growth in assessed value of these cities has increased about 24.8%. And today, the combined total assessed value of all properties in the area is more than $29.1 billion. So this is, I could probably make those numbers a little bit more attractive if I apply alternative facts. Sorry, but just had to make it current. So, so we have really good news for the real estate industry as more properties continue to be bought and sold, and properties continue to recover from the previous recession, and new construction is increasing. In fact, we've actually had the largest influx of new construction permits in more than 8 years. So I hope this information has been helpful. For updates on my initiatives or to keep in touch with us, you can join our newsletter list by visiting my website at assessor.lacounty.gov. We try to focus on information that we think will be useful to you in the daily practice of your profession, or have information that we think will be useful for you to share with your clients. And keep it alert by this fall. We're going to have a new section on our website called Resources for Realtors, where we're going to try to have information that we think is most useful for you, that you can share with your clients in one easy to find location. So once again, pleasure to be with you this morning, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.